Is it on? Are you ready?
Yeah.
Oh, take my beanie off. So this is the story of how we got Quincy. I think it was on a Friday. I had to take Sarah when she was about 16 years old to a Habitat for Humanity in the hills section of New Haven. It's a less than desirable area, and of course the house was gutted and in pretty bad shape. And I was on my way to work, so we got there fairly early, and there was nobody at the site, the job site. So I didn't want to leave her alone there, and we drove around the block. And coming back along the block, there was this dog who was running around out in the street, and he seemed oblivious to traffic. So I mentioned to Sarah, I said, I hope that guy doesn't get hurt. So when we got back to the job site, there was the job manager, contractor, I guess, who was there. So I let Sarah off, and I was to pick her up at about 4:30 that afternoon. I went back at the appropriate time and parked in front of the building, and Sarah's waving me inside. I thought, oh sure, she wants to show me what she accomplished today. I got into the house, and Sarah says, look at this dog, isn't he marvelous? She had nothing to show me about the house. She just wanted me to see the dog, and of course she was very anxious that we have the dog. Apparently the neighborhood kids who called him Rex told her that the dog was abandoned and the owners didn't want him anymore, and he was living out of the garbage cans. So I told Sarah, and we'd moved into this house, we hadn't been here that long, and there's no fence, so I wasn't real anxious to have a dog here. The kids said, oh well, his owner is right down the street, but she doesn't want him. And I said, well, I'll tell you what, Sarah, maybe let's go down and meet the owner. Maybe she or he wants to get rid of him, maybe not. So we go down, a whole group of us, all the neighborhood kids, Rex and Sarah and I, and going through the little ghetto. So we get to the owner's house. It's a duplex, and on one side is this door that we knock on, and a little girl, no bigger than maybe a couple of feet high, opened the door shyly and said, is your mom home? And she kind of looked at me and didn't answer anything. And then her mother did come to the door. She had a baby on her breast that she was feeding, and she was a young Hispanic woman and didn't speak a word of English. So I asked her, do you own this dog? And she didn't know what I was talking about. One of the kids said, hey, the lady next door, she's bilingual, and or she speaks Spanish. So they knocked on the door, and out comes this black woman, and she says, yes, I speak Spanish. And I explained to her, hey, just curious about this dog. Does she want the dog anymore? So she translated that, and the lady responded, no, she didn't want him. And oh, darn, somebody's going to want this dog beside us. So Sarah was getting more and more agitated and more excited, and Rex was just kind of panting away and having a good time. I said, okay, well thank you. I didn't say we were going to take him, but she definitely didn't want him. And so we go wandering back. I'm trying to think of excuses not to take the dog. And I told Sarah, I tell you what, Sarah, and at the time we were driving a black pickup truck, an old F-150, and I told Sarah, when we get back in the truck, if he gets in on his own power, then I'll consider taking him. If not, don't worry about it. Don't push him, because this is his neighborhood. And Sarah agreed. We went over to the truck, and I opened my door, and she opened her door, and before either one of us got in, there's Rex sitting right in the middle of the bench seat. And little did we know, he is a car dog. He absolutely loves riding in the car. And so we got him home. We drove. I'm sitting here, I got this dog with me, and I'm Sarah, and there's just no way I could say no. So we drove home. On the way back to the house, I said, Sarah, what are we going to name this dog? And she was going through her names, and Then I realized the hill section is the site of the former Trowbridges from the whaling days, and some of the very earliest settlers lived in that section, which is now, they would never recognize it because it's all landfill. It used to be the former New Haven Harbor, which is much smaller now than it was 200 years ago. So I said, well, why don't we call him Quincy? And she thought that was a marvelous idea, and I thought it was pretty cool. So we got home and said, we're going to name him Quincy. It turns out that as we got out of the car, and Rex got out of the car, Lynn came out and said, I was thinking about a dog. And I said, well, look at what we've got here. That's the saga of how we got Quincy Trowbridge into this house. Isn't that right, Quince? Mm-hmm.